Hello, good afternoon. My name is Raditya Lasri, if you are not aware of that. And I am 45 minutes after my usual office hour. Obviously, if you're not showing up here live, it does not matter what time I'm doing this office hour. And I'm sitting there thinking about tomorrow's email, because on Thursdays I have my newsletter go out as I have a meditation in the evening. And there are these moments in these past few weeks, actually in meditation we were talking about, there are these moments where inspiration hits us, right? Maybe you see, I'm just looking outside, like maybe I see a neighbor do something that I'm inspired by. Maybe I'm reading something. Maybe I'm learning about, someone was sharing in a session that I had, someone was sharing how they were inspired by this athlete that has been dealing with, I think it was diabetes since they were very young, and how they've been really high in sports, right? Really great athlete out in the game. I think it was football. And how it inspires them that if they can do it, then they should be able to do the same thing, right? And how does inspiration work? That was really our conversation in our meditation, because someone was talking about the book that she's reading. She's reading about Madonna, and we're like, oh, let us hear. And she shared with us some things that she was inspired by, which then inspired me to have a conversation the following week to bring something that inspires each one of us. And so everyone responds differently to inspiration, some more than others. And how does it come up? And it usually doesn't come because when I'm sitting here, right, I'm like, I want to be inspired. I'm almost 100% sure it is not going to happen. You are not going to get inspired. Usually inspiration happens when you least expect it. For example, and that's not necessarily in relationship to inspiration, but to ideas, right? Or remembering. You're driving somewhere and then you remember how you have never made that appointment that someone was calling you about, which is actually me, why I was also a little late because I got all caught up in that. Where we are driving and now I can't call them because I can't access my calendar. I can't, so our inspiration to do something doesn't always happen at a convenient time. Right? How often have you been thinking about someone, wanting to connect with someone, or remembering that you need to respond to their messages or emails, and you haven't done it yet? And you wonder oh my God, okay, I'm going to remember. And then the next thing you know, you forgot. And the next time you remember, you're maybe in the middle of sleep or in the middle of a meeting or somewhere inconvenient to actually take action. So having inspiration doesn't happen when we need it. And we also want to really be open-minded to when it comes, to figure out a way to bring it back to life that we actually can take care of it. Now, I wrote, I don't know if you can see it, the theme of today is inspiration and procrastination. And I feel they are very interconnected because, again, we can be inspired by many things we read, things we see, things that people do, that people do. And that can then spark this thing of an inner need to I want to do something like that, or there is something I want to do, right? Then comes action. So inspiration is like a spark of something, right? It just hits us somehow, somewhere. Then this inspiration will only have an impact a true impact on us when we do something with it, right? Do something with doesn't necessarily mean like, all right, I'm inspired to write a book, for example, or I'm inspired to draw or paint. I'm inspired to take on a new hobby. Like those are just beginnings. But then those are the sparks, right? But then once that spark has happened, something else has to come from it so that that interest will continue, right? Because an inspiration is great. I can just be inspired all day and the inspiration comes and it goes. And so the idea is really to recognize that I do have to do something with that inspiration. I can just take it and leave it. And most of the time, it probably will be very enjoyable to use the inspiration and put it into action. And again, like I said, it doesn't mean like you have to actually do something, but we're going to use the example of actually having to do something, right? For example, this email I have to write tomorrow. I have no idea. So my inspiration could be this conversation about inspiration and procrastination. Maybe in this conversation, something will spark something that I will then have to write something about. Well, I don't have to, but what I will write about, which then takes effort, right? It's not just going to blur out and here it is, right? And the most important piece then is to not procrastinate, not to wait to the last minute to do it, but to actually take it on and recognize, if I now take action, if I now that inspiration is here, the fire is starting, and it's a little bit bittersweet to talk about this because I still, want to recognize that there are literal fires happening in Los Angeles. I don't know the current status. I'm sure it's a little better than it was, but no matter what, it's not pretty, right? So obviously there was a spark of inspiration. There's this fire, and now something has to come from it. We can just mourn about it, and just be, miserable and sad and all this. But then there's going to be some piece of inspiration that will make us do something, maybe improve the infrastructure, maybe be part of a community that this will not happen again, right? So sometimes things have to happen, have to have a spark to get into this direction. So my thoughts go out to all the people that have to go through this, and I'm just laughing because it's kind of like a silly, like me talking about inspiration and then putting this experience in there is not necessarily a very sensible thing to do. And at the same time, it's what's happening, right? So I know, and I'm sure, and from past experiences, I know people will come together. We will, as communities, come together and figure out a solution to overcome this misery. And so I want to just put that on the side and then see how we can bring this inspiration into this experience. All right. And when we look at these passions that we have, and maybe the passion isn't there yet, so we start with the inspiration. So maybe it is get more resources, get more information, connect more, again, like communities, right? So there's different ways that we can deepen that inspiration into action. But then there comes the human experience. The human experience is, let me wait to the last minute until I have to do it. And this goes for so many things. I have a presentation tomorrow, and we had a connection call today, and the theme was, or rather what I'm bringing up is, it was about prevention. These workshops that we're hosting are here to prevent a mental breakdown. It's to prevent doing something at the last minute when something really important is coming in, and then we drop it again and we're not continuing with that mission, right? And so I want to integrate inspiration and procrastination into one, or I'd rather say, like, we have these two things that are kind of opposing of each other, and yet they're both human experiences. We all have the capacity to be inspired by something, right? And then we also have the capacity of procrastination, meaning we're going to inspired by all the things. We're going to start a project. We're going to have these, maybe we start the conversations. We put all the resources out. We learned about it, and then steam is out. We don't have enough power to push through, or maybe something else is coming up, and then you have like one piece here unfinished, another thing starting here unfinished, and another thing over here unfinished. So there comes a moment where we become inspired again to maybe finish this one project or continue this one project. Actually, as I'm looking right there, there is this piece of vision board that I worked on, which I'm not going to share right now. I'm going to make a whole thing around it. But that too was like, I knew I wanted to do a vision board, and my vision boards are a little different than others. So we're not going to go into what are vision boards and such, but this vision board for 2025. And I knew I wanted to do it, and yet I didn't know what it was. And it took some time, including some conversation, to really have this idea. And now I get it. I was super excited. The inspiration was there. Wow, I'm so excited. Wow, I know exactly what I want to do. And it was in the middle of the night. I'm like, okay, I got to go to bed. I got to get rest. And then I let it go. And then you have to pick up the pieces again the next day or the day after, whenever you get the chance again. And then you continue, and then comes this moment again. It's like an up and down, right? It's like a heartbeat. It doesn't always at the high. It's not always on the low. It's up and down, right? So meaning inspiration comes, inspiration goes. And then procrastination comes, procrastination goes. And so just like this, it's just acknowledging this human experience of things coming and things going. Emotions being strong, emotions getting a little less strong. And with this, it's like, okay, we sometimes have to pick up the pieces again. Maybe your inspiration is to finish it, right? Maybe your inspiration is to, you know what? And I had this before. I had some art pieces sitting up there for months, and I just didn't know what else to do with it. I was like, I knew it wasn't finished, and yet I wasn't inspired just yet what it is. And so the interesting thing about inspiration and procrastination is that they both happen the same way. They can come as fast as they go. The only difference is that inspiration is exciting, new, and fun. Procrastination is like, oh, it's a drag. It's kind of the opposite, right? It's like, it's not really fun, and yet we need to get through it. So why am I mentioning this is because this is what I was experiencing. I was kind of like, what I'm going to talk about, what I'm going to write about, what I'm going to do. And I just wanted to share this human experience of letting ourselves know that no matter what state you're in, no matter how uncomfortable it feels not finishing something or still having to do it, it's not going to go without you doing something. So pick up that pen, pick up that book, pick up that whatever that is half finished. And if you're just not inspired anymore, finish it or just call it the end. And then restart something new and be inspired by something new. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's okay to leave something unfinished. But if that's not you, then you'll find some way to get through the procrastination, finish this thing up so you can feel good about putting it aside and then be inspired by something new. So my question to you is, what has inspired you today? Is there something that is on the back burner, something that somebody has done in the past that you feel like, oh, I want to do that too. I was inspired by this, and yet here I am still not doing anything about it. So if that is you, maybe that's procrastination, and maybe just start somewhere. You know, sometimes inspiration comes by doing something. Pick up that pen again, or pick up something, have a conversation with someone, and all of a sudden you have that spark that comes into your mind, and you are just free from like expectation. And this is what I'm hoping for you to do, is to find something that inspires you, that pushes through procrastination, and that will give you something that you can call like something accomplished. And be excited about what else is to come. So good luck to you. Let me know how it's going. If you need any support, feel free to reach out, and I'll see you next week.